It is Holier Than Thou. Last sort of 15 minutes on a Friday, we do this segment. Can I just say this was going to be a media-centric edition of Holier Than Thou, but a late entrance this morning from the Inland Revenue Department, who have declined our OIA about their expenditure on placing female sanitary products in the male loos based on the fact that they don't keep a tally of it. Well, half that expenditure shouldn't be there in the first place, I think, is what we were trying to get to, and that's the discussion we wanted to have, and they don't want to have that discussion. So a late addition to Holier Than Thou there, but we're going to have to go back to them on that and keep that story rolling. This segment's intended to highlight those who are supposed to be accountable to or represent you and I, but have, for some reason or another, fallen short of that criteria. For this week, I thought who better to shine that particular spotlight on than the publicly owned Television New Zealand, and more broadly those in the media who elect to assign ludicrous sensationalisms to their stories about pretty uninteresting or otherwise insignificant things. TVNZ this week presented viewers with their analysis of a political poll commissioned by them, conducted by Orion Polling. The poll in question found that the National Party had slid 2% and New Zealand First lost 1%, back below the threshold for Parliament. Now, feel free to put me in my place here, but here are some words and phrases that I personally do not associate with a 2% dip in a poll 2 years out from an election. Pummeling, shock waves, devastating, blow, rock Parliament to its core, coalition crumble. But that's just me. Apparently finding this colourful language entirely appropriate for this context was Television New Zealand's newly minted political editor Mikey Sherman, whose appetite for subtlety in analysing the poll was clearly superseded by a desire to start the new roll off with a bang, or perhaps more aptly a shock. Generally speaking, if the tone and delivery of your coverage of an issue as a journalist generates more attention and discussion than the subject on which you're reporting, you've probably overcooked it a bit. TVNZ are fielding 50 complaints over the coverage, with many viewers describing an overly sensationalist, misleading and generally crazed analysis of another one of hundreds of journalists who seem to have forgotten the importance of a balanced, calm and level-headed approach to representing factual events. My personal favourite part of the lengthy 6 o'clock piece was when one news replayed B-roll footage of the Prime Minister eating some noodles and then suggested playfully that he was, quote, reaching for the comfort food after such a devastating, shocking, crumbling, shockwave sending Parliament core rocking result. And one of dozens of polls to be released over the next 2 years. So come on, Television New Zealand, just do the news, please. Can I just add quickly to this as well, the coverage this week of the Julian Jenta saga. I don't know Julian personally. I've heard the words passionate thrown around quite a bit in relation to her style of politics. And I'm sure she can be quite hot-headed and perhaps even intimidating and rude. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. Green Party MPs with staunch views on things quite often are. But for those not caught up, the Green MP, who apparently got quite excited about transport, or gets quite excited about transport, shot up out of her seat in Parliament, strode across to the Associate Minister for Transport, Matt Ducey, and waved a pamphlet in his face during a debate. Not a nice thing to do, and certainly a breach of professionalism. Though from a party with such a cavalier approach to parliamentary customs, I find it hard to believe that everyone's so taken aback. What did surprise me, though, was the style of coverage, again, and general reaction from parliamentarians and media alike. And can I just say here, I think we're witnessing in our time, with great aid from the media, the extinction of the hyperbole as a lexical technique. Here are just again some more words used in an article by Newshub on the issue. Stunned, shell-shocked, shaken up. It sounds like they're describing a Category 4 hurricane, not the theatrical waving of a transport document in the face of a bemused MP during a roading projects debate. I'm not suggesting Mrs. Jenta's done nothing wrong here. She most certainly has strayed well beyond the confines of professionalism, and she is paid out of the public purse good money to scream or to provide useful contributions to the public debate, not to scream and throw tantrums and wave public submissions on cycle lanes in the face of ministers. She, for God's sake, shell-shocked. It was hardly the song, was it? So it has been a week of sensationalism in the media and political realm this week, but just remember, not everything is as devastating, stunning and pummeling as some would have you believe. That's it for Holier Than Thou. That's me.